Hi, I'm John, and you're going to hear Jack in a second here. Here is our AP Stats project.
For our experiment, we are trying to test if democratic countries have a higher mean GDP compared to non-democratic countries. To test this question, we found worldpopulationreview.com, a website deemed trustworthy by various sources. More specifically, two separate datasets on separate pages on the website. One includes a democracy index, where countries were ranked in terms of how much they exhibit democratic values, and a score of 6.01 or higher demonstrates that the said country is democratic. We used 2022 data and found 72 democratic countries and 95 non-democratic countries. Our hypotheses were null hypothesis mu1 minus mu2 equals 0 versus the alternative hypothesis mu1 minus mu2 is greater than 0, where mu1 equals the average GDP of all democratic countries and mu2 equals the average GDP of all non-democratic countries. After we had determined which countries were stated to be democratic and non-democratic, as stated on the summary slide, we used the website wheelpicker.com to put every single democratic country on a wheel and every single non-democratic country on another wheel. Both wheels are fair with equal spacing of countries. We recorded 30 simple random samples from 7 countries each for both wheels in tables. Using World Population Review's GDP data, we recorded the 2022 GDP for every country, and then calculated the sample mean GDP in billions for each sample. After recording them in a 30 by 30 table, our data was obtained. It is beneficial to note that in each sample, duplicates were not used, and if a country would appear twice by chance, then the wheel would be respun. The table shows the results of our 30 samples of democratic and non-democratic countries. The histogram for the distribution of democratic countries' GDP has a rate skew in possible high outliers 3,822.35, 3,826.32, and $3,758.14 billion, as shown in the box and whisker plot. Its mean is 937.96 billion, and its median is $626.24 billion. Its standard deviation is 502.49 billion, and it has a spread of $3,734.89 billion. The 5-number summary is minimum equals 91.43, quartile 1 equals 390.47, median equals 626.24, quartile 3 equals 983.72, and the maximum equals 3,826.32. The histogram for the distribution of non-democratic countries' GDP shows a right skew in possible high outliers 2,797.99, 528.84, 572.13, 558.10, and $523.64 billion. The median is 150.49 billion. And the mean is $288.97 billion. Its range is $2,755.99 billion, and its standard deviation is $1,018.27 billion. The 5-number summary is minimum equals 42, quartile 1 equals 73.57, median equals 150.49, quartile 3 equals 250.52, and the maximum equals 2,797.99.
Okay, so when it comes to our plan step, if all the conditions are to be met, then we will do a 2-sample t-test for the population mean with alpha, or the significance level, being 0.05. We use this test type because we have 2 independent samples and we are trying to figure out the average GDP. To fulfill the random requirement, we took 30 random samples of both democratic and non-democratic countries, each consisting of 7 countries that have been randomly selected via spinner wheel. To fulfill the normal requirement, due to the central limits theorem, or the CLT, the data exhibits a normal distribution as both sample sizes are 30. To fulfill the independent requirement, there are more than 300 possible 7-country combinations for countries exhibiting both democratic and non-democratic properties. For our do step, we calculated the standardized test statistic t from the formula provided, and we got a t statistic of 3.13. With this statistic, we calculated the p-value of the data using the 2-sample t-test ability on our calculators. The p-value garnered is about 0, with it being 0.002 approximately, using approximately 42 degrees of freedom. For a conclusion, since the p-value of approximately 0 is less than 0.05, the significance level, we can reject the null hypothesis and accept the alternative. This means that there is evidence to conclude that democratic countries have a higher mean GDP than do non-democratic countries. As our project continued, we encountered a couple of problems throughout it, all of which were solved in one way or another. First off, we were unaware if our data collection website, World Population Review, was a trustworthy source. However, various other websites confirmed that it was a reliable website. Our original sample of 15 democratic samples and 15 non-democratic samples exhibited outliers and strong skewness, so we had to boost the sample size up to 30. We were also unsure on how to go about sampling these countries and their GDPs, but ended up using a random wheel spinner website online. Thanks for tuning in to our presentation.